That's exactly right. Okay, we're
I
going to go
always
back
felt that way
into
about
our
Tom.
next item, and we don't need Mr. Bradshaw anymore, so he's going to go ahead and go. Is there anything, is that good with all of you?
Have a great day, Mr. Bradshaw.
Thank you, Wes. Okay, next up is our health insurance update. Ms. Sherry Sargent.
Yes. Good morning. I am just here to give you a quarterly update on where we are with our self-insurance fund. I do have Kim with me, Kim Van Etten. She's our employee benefits specialist.
Yep.
I always appreciate Mrs. Bryant being on our health insurance committee. And Mr. Bishop works very closely with me on this as well, so feel free to chime in if you'd like to, Mr. Bishop. So again, this is where I try to just give you a snapshot of what's been happening these 3 months, the first quarter, January, February, and March. And so if you'll take a look at the claims and you're able to compare those to years 15, 16, 17, and then where we are now in 18. As you can see, we are running a little high in 2018. January was unusually high. What happened with those January claims is there was an accident that had occurred in July or August. That claim went to subrogation to see which insurance company was going to need to pay for what, and it hit our plan in January, unfortunately. So that kind of got us, I'm sorry, excuse me?
The accident was in
July or August of 2017.
Okay.
It got tied up with the system as far as who needed to pay for what portion of the claims. And then we were hit with about $250,000 was that one incident that hit us in January.
So technically, it's really 2017.
Yes, but as far as financially, it's 2018. Yes, you're correct.
Hey, let me ask you,
Yes.
why does Symetra insure anyone if they're always having to pay out? How do they make money?
Good question.
Well, there are years, you'll see on one of our future slides, there's only been 1 year in the last several that they did end up needing to give us some reimbursements. I anticipate that they will give us reimbursements this year. But there have been years, well, if you look here, 2015, you see no red asterisks. 2017, towards the end, after the fact, in January, I think we got some reimbursements. So for them, you know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It works, I guess. And we do pay them a premium.
I saw
So-
those red ones, I'm like, gosh, how would they want to insure you if they pay out all the time?
Right, and that was in 2016 where it was quite a bit, yes.
But Sherry, when you look at, I know quarterly, it looks like we're up. But when you look also though at past years, there still seems to be, there's a lot left in this year of unknowns. And
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm glad that you come forward, I'm glad that you're sharing all this, but I wish I could say it gave us a crystal ball or, you know, into the future, and it just doesn't seem to
She
really
keeps
do
the
that.
crystal ball hidden.
She did.
Yeah.
It absolutely does not give us a crystal ball. You're correct. This is just the first quarter, and we could have a really great second quarter, or we could have a really rough second quarter.
Well, you look at like November of 2017, and if you were to compare that to November of 2016, you can't. I mean, it's almost twice, it's half as much as it was the previous year.
Yes.
And you can see that throughout. So, again, I think it's prudent that we're, you know, as Mr. Doug would say to us, you know, we got to make sure we're watching everything.
Right, yeah, that's right.
But I'm not ready to panic quite yet.
Yes, correct. Well said. The month of February was good. We were $300,000 under budget, so that February was very helpful. This is where we break it down, and I just like to show you what portion of the total claims are going toward medical and what portion is going toward pharmacy. We don't have the breakdown quite for March. We just got these claims in Friday, so we rely on Brian to look at the claims and pull it apart, and that has not yet been done. Okay, on the next slide, you'll see the averages of how they ran for the first quarter of each year. And we are above average at this point in time. We've had a rougher first quarter this year than in previous years.
But that's mainly from the one incident that
Yes, yes,
In 2017.
2017.
right.
Because
But
if you
it's
took that out,
it's
it
still,
would actually have been a
here.
good first quarter.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
But we still have to factor it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this just shows you in a different format the claims averages for the years.
Again, generally though, that's still pretty level. I'll knock on wood. When you look at from 14, even through 18, I mean, again, if we were making some understandable adjustment to the overall, that they're all still pretty much in there.
Yes. Our average monthly premium revenue is reflected on this slide. I have adjusted our budget. You'll see that on our next sheet. We are down somewhat from what we anticipated our premiums would be for 2018, and that is strictly numbers of folks that are on our health insurance plan. So that is an important thing that we need to do a good job, myself, our department, as far as making sure our employees know this is a very good, very rich plan, and very comparable to other plans that are out there. We need to, the more people who are paying premiums, those are the dollars that are paying our claims. So that is very important that we maintain our membership. Our original projection for claims this year was that we would run about 1.391 per month. And we are actually running at about 1.352 average per month. So that is affecting our overall budget. If you'll remember, we're still building toward actuary soundness. We were actuarially sound at our last report. We had one very good year. We need to continue that. We need to have 2 or 3 good years. So again, we're still building our plan. We had a 3-year plan to try to become actuarially sound and to build our reserves where they need to be. So if we'll take a look at this, the first column is our monthly budget, and that has been adjusted toward where our premiums, once we knew what our migration was and who signed up for which plans, it has been adjusted somewhat. And then you'll see the true numbers that we've had for January, February, and March. So the first line reflects what we generate for our premiums. Just a note of explanation between January and February. Because of December, when we have those checks so quickly together, deadlines, we had 1 board match reflected in the month of January's coming into our account. In February, we've got 3 board matches reflected. Those 2 average out to where we need to be, the 1.3 approximately. It's just a matter of when things got posted. So we were short in January, but heavy in February, but it averaged out. As far as the other revenue, that's where we reflect pharmacy rebates. You'll see January, February, and March. We usually get those quarterly. It came in early April. So we do have $75,000 that's not reflected here that came in as a pharmacy rebate. So that's a good thing. That'll show up on next quarter's report. Also, the other premium revenue that we list here would be interest. We get a little bit of a payback from Transportation Department from doing their physicals. So those are items that are reflected here. In addition, if you'll recall, Crown is supporting a position at $40,000 a year, which is $3,333 a month. That's being reflected on this line. As far as expenses, our claims, you'll see what our claims have been running. And you'll see what our monthly budget is. We count at just under $1 million in claims per month. Our Florida Blue admin fees we pay on a monthly basis. Reinsurance premium to Symetra we pay on a monthly basis. And then the care here, that number represents several things. The program fees, the service fees, that's what we pay our providers, their salaries. And then pharmacy, those are the prescriptions that we pay for to have in the wellness center. All that is represented on that line. Wellness center other, those are other things such as the custodial expenses, the electrical, the rent, the gas, the garbage, all the other little bills that add up. And then that final line are other expenses that our self-insurance fund has, such as Affordable Care Act fees, which are going to be substantially lower this year than in previous years, postage, and then the expenses of that position that they're reimbursing us for will be reflected on that line as well. So then you'll see what, we have total revenue up top, then we have our total expenses, and then the net is where we fell that month. And again, I'll just explain the January, February, then we were in the negatives, but then look at the positive in February and it balanced out. Now let's talk about the aggregated specific pooling. That is what we have to do to plan for those high claims that we have. Symetra, that's why we have Symetra. We pay them the premium, and then we pay the first $670,000 of high claims. And then if those exceed that, we start getting reimbursement checks. So I feel like I've got to reflect that here on our monthly budget. The $55,833 is 1/12 of $670,000. So when we're looking at a monthly budget, we've got to remember that if we get into those high claims, and I feel like it's going to, so far this year it's looking like that might happen because especially of the January. So we've got a budget that we may have to pay that first $670,000 of extremely high claims, which comes off our total net for the year. So worst case scenario, if we do have to exhaust all $670,000 of that, then we'd be sitting at about a surplus of, or at a surplus for, on a monthly basis of $48,465. If you multiply that by 12, then we'd be looking at a $600,000 gain for the year. Again, it is way too early, but based on where we're sitting right now after the first quarter, thinking about that pooling we have to plan for, we could be looking at the $600,000 as a possible best case. And if you recall, when we originally built the budget, we were trying to plan for an additional $1 million in reserves. I don't think that we're going to hit that additional million for this year. Again, it's way too early, but I'm just sharing with you some early projections.
Let me ask, where do we get our pharmaceuticals that are given out at the clinic? Are there different sources or one source?
Honestly, I don't know exactly where those come from, who they order. There is a company.
There's a SaveRx is what we do through the mail order, and then there's maybe 2 different vendors that they use to order prescriptions.
Okay, and what was the name of this?
SaveRx is what they utilize for the mail order prescriptions at the wellness center. And then she said she believes there's 2 additional vendors that we utilize to stock the wellness centers. So let me just say, as far as these very early projections, a couple of things. We were hit hard in January. And then secondly, our premium revenue is not where we had originally anticipated it to be. So again, I can't stress enough the need to market our plan. We've got a great plan. It's very comparable as far as premiums. The deductibles are quite low comparatively speaking, and the out-of-pockets are fairly low comparatively speaking. And we hear that from new employees who come to us at new hire meetings, and they're surprised at how low our deductibles are and our out-of-pockets are as compared to where they've come from or where they're coming from, other group plans.
Why are we missing the mark on our premiums though? Can you?
Again, it's the migration. We did budget for fewer people to move over because we always receive a little bit of a reduction in people who move over from year to year. It's a little bit bigger than we had anticipated and than what's happened in previous years. So the premium, it affects our premium revenue.
Right. And so what is the solution for that? I mean, what can
Either we
do?
have to increase premiums, or better is increase our membership or maintain our membership. And that's where I'm saying I believe marketing our plan, making sure our employees know we've got a good plan, the benefit of the wellness center. The things that we do market, continue to market and increase that.
Now, are more of our employees leaving us to go to a private plan? Sir H, is that something that we're seeing more of now? I mean, they're totally leaving the
We don't
district.
necessarily track what they're doing as their new option. So I can't answer that. I don't have that. I don't know if you, from conversations with people, would have any information?
Just in general, I would say no. It's just usually due to a qualifying event, maybe their spouse got a new job and they went on to their plan, it's resignations, deaths.
Retirees,
yeah,
retirees that are reaching the age of,
Yeah,
Medicare.
retirees, a lot of them are not staying on our health. They'll go get it Part A and B and then a supplement as opposed to staying on our plan. But some do stay on our plan, so it just differs based on their individual needs.
Okay. I know you had looked at some other plans at one time, I think last year, wasn't it, Sherry, when you looked at, did a little research on what is out there on the
Absolutely.
open market? And
that's why
really,
I'm
you
comfortable
didn't-
saying that,
Right.
that we are a rich plan and we're comparable.
Right.
We can do that analysis again. It would be diligent of us to do that. It would be prudent, and we will, but the last time we did it, yes.
Yeah.
The only thing I hear about our enrollment is everybody's really happy with the employee. But then some of them are finding the spouse, our family plan is a little high. So if it's just that additional person seems to be the one that's going to get the one employee, but we don't get the whole family. And then, I hate to bring this up because we're in negotiations with the sheriff's office, but if somebody's married to a deputy, they'd say that insurance is better than ours. And our teachers are not enrolling in ours because they're with the sheriff's insurance. So we checked into what their program is?
I have not recently.
Yeah. But,
I mean, we did when we did our whole process.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know that from some of them that they're married, the sheriff's is better than ours, so we might need to be more competitive with them, whatever they're offering.
But also your group is a factor of that. And I was gonna say, we have an older base of
Yeah, you have to look at-
members.
You have to look at the demographics of your group.
Yeah.
That's what drives the cost, because it parlays into the claims data.
Yeah.
They look at Doug and they're excited because they're like, we're not gonna make we're gonna make money on him.
So it's the big picture there you have to look at. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly we can become more competitive with any other agency, but how do we do that? We either do that by reducing our claims exposure or by increasing the subsidy provided by the board, of which both are very difficult.
Very difficult.
So the path that the insurance committee, myself, and the Cerns have gone is we're trying to look at trying to grow our membership through good service. Good service at people have good experiences at our wellness centers.
Uh-huh.
When we fall short of that mark, make no mistake about it, there's no one more vocal than I am to address that with our friends at Care Here, because we have to increase membership. We think that is the most prudent way for us to offset the rise in health insurance costs is through membership.
Those are the only, the wellness center, the insurance, I always hear good about to increase membership. We have to look at why we're not getting the whole family.
Right, absolutely.
And I will say, I mean, I did stay with the sheriff's office insurance. I pay my insurance all through the sheriff's office, and it's with United. And I think the network is better with Blue Cross, from what I've seen. And that's the provider, that's the insurance of the school system is Blue Cross. And so I think that there's, having a bigger network, that the Blue Cross network is pretty strong.
Oh, yeah.
So, that is one of the things. I don't know what the cost difference is though, Ms. Counts,
Yeah, I
on
don't
that.
either.
But,
I've done Blue Cross all my life, so
yeah,
that's even my supplement now.
And there's a lot of benefit for that network that Mr. Dodd references, because we also get negotiated rates, and Blue Cross has a very powerful position in that marketplace to
Mhm.
negotiate those rates with the provider. So we're pretty sweet with Blue Cross right now.
And that's a good point that you brought up. We did look at that very closely, United and Florida Blue, and the rates that Florida Blue is able to negotiate for our people were a lot better. Just a note is the 200,000 wellness contribution has been received. That's at 50,000 a year, but they gave it to us all up front as part of signing on with Florida Blue for the additional 4 years. And so that's not reflected in the numbers above. Any other questions before I move on? All right, I'd like to share with you the Wellness Center utilization. Actually was down just a little bit in March, so we meet with them monthly, and we are monitoring this very closely, and when we see a drop, we get with them immediately to see what we can do as far as provider hours. Sometimes we're able to scale back on their hours because we don't want to pay providers to sit there idle. So these were our utilization. January and February, we were maintaining where they need to be. We'd like them to even be higher, but it was an improvement January, February. So that is for example, if you look at Inverness, if you look at both schedules, for example, in March, both schedules in Inverness, 76% utilization. And then of all of the appointments that are used in Inverness, 72% of those are being used by school district people. The balance, sheriff's office people. And then the same for the Beverly Hills. Yes.
And we're hopeful that we'll see a increase in the utilization at the Inverness office. We're working to try to get a medical doctor coverage at the Inverness Center. We feel that those numbers may be a little below the mark because we haven't had a medical doctor. We've had physician's assistants and nurse practitioners, but we're working to try to get a doctor there at that center at least 1 or 2 days a week.
Does this mean though, again, that school district, because we share costs with
That's correct.
the sheriff's office, so it looks like we're still a good portion of what both offices are doing, or is this, okay,
That's correct, yes, sir.
yeah. Which again, we're kind of benefiting by having an Inverness office that,
That is correct.
because of that relationship.
Yes, sir.
Well, and with the fire department going back to the county, they went to the county's wellness center, right? So
That's
the
correct.
sheriff's office is no longer 500 employees with the fire services out of there.
Ooh.
And shortly after that, we did scale back quite a bit on provider hours in Inverness because they lost those employees, which impacted all of us.
Right. I will
Does the
say
county
that
only have the one in LaCanto?
they had one in LaCanto. I think that's the only one.
That's the only
Yeah,
one, okay.
That's what I'm aware of. I did speak to someone who was there, doesn't get sick very often, so doesn't use the wellness center, but was sick and had a good experience there. Went to the one in Beverly Hills, so I just recently heard that this last week. So, you like to hear those kind of positive remarks. I just want to share that. I know you guys hear things like that too from time to time. But when we have healthy people, the thing we got to remember about them is that they may kind of forget what the services are at the wellness center. I mean, once you get established there and you go there, you know what they have to offer, and so that's always in the back of your mind. But when you have someone that's not used to going to the doctor, that would be something we want to make sure that we market that. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm always, we use Tiffany a lot. We love her. I mean, at
Yes.
Beverly Hills. And she, so I mean, when they go in, it's not just that they're checking you for the thing you have there. They kind of do a quick little intake and make sure, okay, where's your weight? Do you have any things going on? But you're right, the services, I mean, we worried about an eye situation, just an eye screening. And, they weren't going to, if you needed to go farther, they were going to recommend you to go to that. But they could take care of a lot of things that just put your mind at rest, and you don't have to spend a lot of other monies to go and use those services. So.
Yes, overall, we get lots of really good feedback. At the committee meetings, which we have next week, we have a representative from every school and every site, and we encourage them, though, if they're hearing something negative, to have those people call, because we definitely want to know about the negatives as well, so that we can get on it and fix it, because we want it to be a good experience for people.
The next part's the
No-shows, but this is good data. I mean, still there's 86 so far first quarter, but compare it to 2016 and 2017. 2016, we had not yet implemented the no-show policy. We knew we needed to do something. We had an improvement in 2017, and then a slight improvement first quarter even compared to 2017. So we do track those, we follow them up, we send emails, we make phone calls, and occasionally we have to charge a fee. But you can see in the first quarter, that's only happened once. Usually we get their attention with the first time with the email or the phone call.
That was a good policy change.
Yes, yes.
Very good.
I wanted to mention one more thing about benefits, that it's moving away from health insurance. So if there's any further questions on health insurance before I mention one other update.
Any other questions? Okay. Nope.
Good.
Well, let me just, real quick on the health insurance still, that the ending balance that we had as of December of 2017, our ending balance was 3.6 million in the health insurance fund. So yes, we've had a rough quarter. This year might not be as good as next year's. We don't know that yet. I mean, as last year's. We don't know that yet, but we still have a good fund balance. As of the end of February, our ending fund balance is sitting at 2.95 right now. So we've got a good fund balance. So just wanted to mention that as well. That's kind of the overall picture as opposed to just the quarterly. All right, I also wanted to mention, we're all aware of Guidance Resources, which is the value-added benefit that we were able to get at no charge to our district, which gave us, our employees, some EAP services, which we were very pleased to be able to do that. I know you all are anticipating that I'm going to bring you back a report maybe after the first half of this year. However, this value-added plan that we have, they do not pull data separately by district. So I'm not going to be able to have data to share with you. I have heard positive things from employees. Susie in HR gets positive feedback. The principals are glad to be able to share this with their employees. But I have worked with Combined Benefits Group, and I've asked more than once, and I've had him ask Guidance Resources more than once if there is any possible way to give us at least a bare minimum something. But they don't have it. They don't have it out by district. The value added. Everybody who gets this value added free benefit is kind of lumped into one group with this company. And so I'm not going to have that information to be able to give you hard numbers. There is potentially a paid for benefit that we could get through this same company that would include reports. So I'm at the early stages of collecting some data in that regard to be able to share back to see if it's something that we want to consider doing. Because it's
I'm
nice,
sorry,
to,
I
it's
didn't
nice
follow
to
that.
have numbers.
What did you say? There is a way to get before?
Potentially, we could upgrade our plan and to a paid plan. We'd be paying a fee. It wouldn't be free anymore. So, you know, is it worth it to have reports to pay a fee? It depends on how much the fee is going to be, of course. So I am exploring that to see if it would be worth it to do that or not. But right now, I mean, our employees know we marketed it very well. We sent a reminder out that they can have up to 3 free face-to-face counseling sessions per issue per year, which is fabulous, for free, that we're offering this to our employees. I had somebody call and say, can you remind me, where is it I call? What's that number I call if I want help preparing a will? So we get those calls. We know people are utilizing it, but I'm not going to have hard numbers. And I know we like numbers. I mean, that's a good, but it's a good way to know how it's going. But I just wanted you to know that up front.
Could we add a question in the climate survey that the teachers do at the end of the year to maybe indicate if they've used a service?
Climate
They don't have to answer
Most
it,
of the
but.
schools have already done their climate.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but,
But certainly, we can create a survey and send it out.
yeah.
I just don't know how authentic of feedback you're gonna get because of the nature.
And you're only gonna get a small percentage, but.
We did talk about that just a couple weeks ago, doing a Survey Monkey or whatever, but are those people are like, they don't really believe that it's anonymous.
Because
You know.
the free service is gonna be used, I really don't wanna have to pay for it just to get numbers, you know?
Right, yes.
And he
But it
answered,
increases.
yes, you did,
service
for
delivery.
different reasons.
Yes, it would increase the services as well, somewhat, yes. For example, instead of 3 face-to-face, they'd be eligible for 6 face-to-face. So it would be increasing the benefit for the fee and allowing us to get reports both.
Would it break down though, what people call for, like, help with legal stuff or help with
I can-
problems? Would it-
I can find out how far down they'll be able to break it down. I can ask that question, but if we upgrade and pay whatever the fee may be, what would we get as far as reports?
Could you at least maybe, I mean, if the board agrees, maybe just explore that information and then email it to us?
And we bring it back in June. We can get that information and we'll just bring it back to you in June. Will that work for you?
And then, you know, before we have to pay for something, if they're using the free service, is there something else that they didn't get that they need that we might have to pay for? Because if the freebie's satisfying them, we certainly don't want to.
We'll research all these ideas and we'll bring it back to you in June. That way we'll have 6 months worth of information.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can present to you.
And Ms. Church, I know you have been sharing out about that service. I know I get those emails too, and there's in those newsletters, I mean, I think even if we just keep that out there, because you know what happens, people don't think about it till they all of a sudden find themselves in a place where they need that information. So maybe it's just a consistency if we get that. And I know you guys do, I just
No,
really more saying it so people know
Yes.
you really do that.
yes, we can continue to do that, yes.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, next up is the Transportation Security Administration presentation, and I asked for this to come to us because I'm on the safety committee, and this is something that Ms. Farmer has been working on that she brought to the committee that we all really liked, and I thought it was a great example of how she is taking advantage of some resources that are out there to look at how we our buses and how we protect kids and the process that we go through. And this is something that's new to us, but I think it can give us some good information. So thank you, Ms. Farmer.
Oh, thank you, and good morning. First of all, I think we could all agree that safety and security is our primary concern. In light of recent events, it has become a heightened concern, especially for Mr. Bishop. So he has directed me to look at some research-based programs, philosophies, processes, at targeting bus safety and security. We know that we are vulnerable because of this nature of our business. This is just one step in that direction. The Transportation Security Administration is offering to do free security assessments to their eligible participants, which includes school bus transportation. So we brought this to the Safety and Security Committee meeting, and they did agree that it would be a good idea to move forward. And again, Mr. Dodd wanted me to present it to you all as well. Basically what they do is they call the assessment BASE, B-A-S-E, which stands for Baseline Assessment for Security Enhancement. Basically, the scope of the program is to establish standards for security, identify strengths as well as vulnerabilities, and then assess progress. The goal is intended to elevate the security posture and readiness. They gather documents to see where we are, such things like the driver safety plan, the driver's handbook, any COOP plans, those types of things, and they assess those documents and the processes behind those documents. Their process is to send 2 inspectors typically, and they do a couple of things. They do on-site observations, they'll do interviews with the different departments that are involved, perhaps like risk management or HR in some of these things that they assess, of course transportation. And then they also do on-site observations, I may have mentioned that, and then they evaluate the documents that they've collected. We're slated for them to start the on-site process in June after school ends. And between now and then, I'll be gathering some of the documents for them to send to them ahead of time. Upon completion, upon completion of all their on-site interviews, the site observations, and the review of the documents, they'll provide us with a very detailed summary of our strengths, our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities, suggestions for improvements, and those types of things. We'll be happy to bring those back to you. That would have to be in a closed session for Mr. Bradshaw. But once we get to that point, we'll be certainly happy to bring that forward to you. The things that they assess are management and accountability, things like do we have a designated safety coordinator, our risk assessment, our security plan, emergency response, and the continuity of operations after an emergency, communications plan, safeguards for our critical information, and awareness of industry best practices related to security. They also assess personnel security, licensing background checks for drivers, employees, and contractors, security training plans, security exercises and drills. They also assess facility security, our facility access control, whether we have strong physical security at all locations, things like buses being behind gates and lock gates and video surveillance, those types of things. Internal and external cyber security. They also assess vehicle security, which would include also vehicles being locked or when they're off-site, how we secure them, those types of things. Passenger security, or in security inspections, how frequently they're conducted. Procedures for reporting suspicious activities, our chain of custody of shipment procedures, which would basically be chain of custody of our students, because they also do mass transit and bigger trucks, so they also like cargo. Pre-planned emergency travel routes and those types of things. It's a very comprehensive assessment. They found in most cases that most agencies or school districts are doing these things. They may just not have a formal process for doing them. So they can help us to get those formal processes in place. And again, we are looking at other safety and security potential policies or procedures or processes that other districts are using, things that are research-based, that we can improve our security and our safety on our buses. Any questions?
You know, one of the nice things that we have is we have a great video process on our buses where the quality of those cameras now are very good, and there's several different angles. I think the new ones have four on them, which is, you know, protection for, you know, the students and, you know, protection for the driver too, someone getting on that bus. So we should be very happy to know that we're achieving that kind of a security, that type of security for our buses and our bus drivers.
Our cameras and our two-way radios are our primary sources of security for us currently.
I just got a quick question. How long did they say, I know you have the completions here, but it didn't really have a timeline. Did they give you any
It
idea?
really depends on the size of the agency, but he thought they would probably only be here for a couple of days. Their review of the documents will take longer.
Right.
They do that off-site, and then they'll get the report back to us. I don't know how long that will take, but I suspect by the end of the summer, we should have something from them.
But we assume that they're gonna go to all of our bus sites, right?
Absolutely.
And-
They may even visit school locations just to see the security on the ramp, how accessible it is to outside
Right.
people, that kind of thing, but they definitely will go to all 3 locations.
And we remember New Orleans and what happened where all the buses were in one spot and everyone flooded. I know here they're in different spots, but they'll do an assessment to
Yes.
tell us.
Absolutely. And last time that we expected potential flooding at our Chris River site, we actually moved all of the buses to Lecanto before that, ahead of that storm. Fortunately, we didn't need to do that, but that's okay. We took the precaution that was necessary, and then we moved them all back before school started back up.
Just taking an umbrella, you know, when it looks like it's gonna rain.
Exactly.
Never
Yes,
need.
absolutely.
Right. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Farmer?
You have a beautiful department.
So thank you so much. And we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer.
Okay, board members, are there any other topics, or Mr. Mullen, is there anything else? Mr. Bishop,
No, sir.
any other topics we need to discuss?
I have one thing to bring up.
Okay.
I went down to St. Luke's and LUI last week, and they have a rafter program to check in. And it's a little box, and I asked them, I'm checking in, but I said, is this a rafter program? Are you reading my driver's license? Yes. And I said, could this thing be mounted outside? She said, I think so. But I just maybe want to see if we could look at the cost as we're re-outfitting some of our front doors. If we could put a rafter system outside the door before front desk has to open that door, we'd have a driver's license, and people could steal driver's licenses, doesn't matter, but we'd have a way of knowing who we're opening the door to, if we could explore the cost and feasibility of that type of a rafter program instead of buzzing them in and then getting their driver's license. Same thing, it's just it's about half the size of this computer screen here. But I'll see it again on Friday, because I gotta go.
Is it outdoors where you went?
No, it's inside, but I asked if, I said, can this thing be
You do know
mounted?
we use Raptor indoors.
We have the little one indoors, but I was thinking that this could be something that,
Like a second check.
it's,
Well, it'd be the first check.
It would be the first
Yeah.
check.
But an
So-
extra check.
Right, yes, that's
well,
right.
and it's just,
But you're not aware of anybody that uses it outside.
I'm absolutely amazed with all that's going on after this Parkland, that we have schools in our state that have no SROs and have no RAPTA system. We're so far ahead of the game in Citrus County. But it was just another deterrent, at that front door of the schools, if they have to identify themselves before they get in. And it's instantaneous.
Right, and it's self-serve. I mean, obviously, you're putting the card through. When they come in our schools, they give them their ID and we check it. So
Yeah, they're
it's
already
interesting.
used-
I mean,
they're
it would be
already
interesting to
used.
see what that system would entail. So I think it's something the Safety and Security Committee could be brought to us, couldn't it, Mr. Bishop?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I've got to go again Friday, so I'll look and see if there's a name on it or if they've got any information they can tell us about it. But it's simple and it's quick.
We can check with Raptor, that's
Yeah.
that company.
I said Raptor and they said yes.
Yeah, that's the name of the company that we used.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Powers?
Okay. Last week I had about 3 different meetings I went to. One was NAMI, which I'm attending regularly to get information on, on mental health services in the county, because we need to lock in with the school system, with the county system, and looking to get more services in the county. So I'm going to the NAMI meetings, and we've got a lot of good information. John Ewell was there, and he was speaking to them. He's retired from this system, and also Susan Reeder. And they had a very good discussion. In addition, I had an appointment last week with Amy Meeks, and we had to change the appointment time, but we'll also discuss the community, what's in there in the community for help with people with mental health issues, both students and adults. And the third thing that I went to, which I saw, there was I think it was a call-in or to the Chronicle, and they were talking about the Holocaust Remembrance Program. And I went to that, we went to it also, on Sunday, was it? And, yeah, Sunday, April the 8th. And they did an incredibly good video or film on the Holocaust. And I was sitting beside Mike Geddes, who's City of Crystal River Council member, and he said, well, he had a whole program on the Holocaust, and he said he'd be glad to share it with the school system. So I'm going to pick up that program and maybe might go to you and see what can be done in the school system. We teach the Holocaust, we talk about it, but there might be some more materials that would even be more helpful to us in the system. It's something that everyone should always remember. Every time I see anything about it, I'm just shocked that human beings do that to other human beings. So we need always to remember so it doesn't happen again. And I'll be picking up materials from him and then sharing with the schools.
Thank you, Ms. Powers. Okay, anything else?
Just the only thing was, along the lines of what Ms. Counts was talking about, a member of the community, Matt Brown, has suggested something over and over, and Ms. Hamlin's talked about it, Mr. Mullen, I think you've talked about it, and Mr. Stroud, you may have as well. But I think it's just worth keeping it in the front of our conversations about school safety, and that is making our campuses, maybe it's an office, maybe it's a room at each of the schools, available to deputies in general, not necessarily just SROs. I read just this week, one of the Florida sheriffs is moving into one of the schools, his office, and is putting his office at one of the schools. And the idea being is what we've talked about, just keeping a presence, kind of keeping a reason that they're going there. I would suspect without question that this district would continue to be welcoming of that type of thing. And it's certainly anything that we would accommodate and work with, but it's just a thought.
When you're talking about working together with someone moving in like that, you're really working
Yeah,
together.
I mean, you talk about, whether they know what's, happening on the ground, they're literally on the ground with that. But even they've talked about, whether that is having lunch available, and coffee available for them in the schools, and, just kind of making that. I'm quite confident we can accommodate, but even just also for them, a place where they can write their reports if they needed a remote location. They do a lot now in their cruisers, I know, with the computers and stuff, but, and they really are so high tech that I think their vehicle in themselves is a computer everywhere. But it's just, again, a way of us opening up the schools and just working together. That's it.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Seeing nothing, we're going to adjourn the workshop meeting. Great day.
You said